friends, welcome to Daily News Simplified, the how, what and why of newspaper reading. Today we are going to analyze the Hindu Delhi edition dated 18th of July 2018. Page number 18, today's newspaper mentions an article about lab-grown meat in restaurant in 3 years. Now, if we see from the perspective of the prelims examination, this particular topic would fall under general science and technology. So these are the few important things. But if we look from the perspective of the mains examination, this will fall under general studies paper 3 and it will come under technology and environment. Some of you might also feel that this can be part of general studies paper 4 as well, which deals with ethical issues. So this can be part of it. Let's go through the article. Now, the lab-grown meat, there's a Dutch company by the name of Moza Meat. Now, that presented the world's first lab-grown meat burger. Now, here, pay attention. It is not the burger. It is always about the patty. So, the patty that is part of the burger, which was lab-grown, has received funding to pursue its plan. So, total funding that they have acquired is $8.8 million. So, this is the funding that they have acquired to make and sell artificial grown meat to restaurants from 2021. Now, this cultured meat or meat substitute product is aimed at consumer concerned about environmental and ethical impact of raising and slaughtering the animals. Now, this is something which we need to understand with the perspective of trophic level. We know that as we move in the trophic level, for example, this is a trophic level. On the bottom, there are primary producers. The second level is primary consumers. Then there is secondary consumers, and on the top, there are tertiary consumers. As we move on this trophic level, the energy converted is only about 10%. That is what the efficiency of the trophic level is. So, in order to cater to a population that's primary consumers, almost the primary producers have to produce a lot because only 10% of energy should be converted. Now, if we go for meat habits or non-vegetarian habits, it means they have to be produced on the basis of grasslands or similar plant products. Now, once we do that, because the efficiency is quite low, 10%, that is why there is environmental concern about this issue. Now, meat uses a small sample. The company that Moza Meat uses a small sample of cells taken from live animals. Those cells are fed with nutrients so that they grow into strands of muscle tissue. Now, if we pay attention to the part of nutrients, it means we can have a packaged supplement. Now, this is something which a company also promotes, that we are going to offer things which will satisfy the need of the people in terms of their body requirements. So this is again a very important aspect. Let's move further. Now, in terms of this lab-grown meat, there are negative consequences of meat consumption on environment. Environmentalists have warned the world's growing appetite for meat, particularly in emerging economies such as China, isn't sustainable because beef, pork, and poultry require far greater resources than the plant-based proteins. So I've just mentioned, if you go through the previous system, the efficiency. Now, if I talk about trophic levels, so primary producers are plants, primary consumers are vegetarian animals, secondary consumers are basically goat, tiger, and other animals, and tertiary consumers are one who feed on all of these things. So you can see that this is something which is a very important aspect. And second important aspect, cows in particular also produce large amount of greenhouse gases. So actually CH4, they emit a lot of CH4 that contribute to global warming. This is true not only for cows but also for all ruminating animals. So those animals who ruminate, they produce large amount of greenhouse gases, and that is why this is very important. Now, challenges, in terms of challenges, if we talk about, the big challenge is making meat that looks, feels, and tastes like the real thing. Now, this is a challenge for the company, that is Moza Meat. And some advocates have claimed the term clean meat, while opponents of the traditional farm sectors suggest this is synthetic meat is more appropriate. So this is going to be a debate between a clean meat or it is not only clean meat but also supplemented meat, because they will be supplementing it with the type of requirements
a particular person have. For example, someone may go for a lean meat with less fat and something like that. And similarly, those who in the traditional farm sector want to oppose it in terms of saying that this is synthetic meat, and the kind of impact this has on the body of human being is yet to be deciphered. Now, in terms of a question in 2012, there has been a question which talks about the biodiversity of a geographical area. Now, pay attention to this question. Which of the following can be threats to the biodiversity of a geographical area? Now, the points are global warming, fragmentation of habitat, invasion of alien species, and last was promotion of vegetarianism. Now, if we have gone through this topic very clearly, we can see promotion of vegetarianism cannot result to threatening the biodiversity. So 4 is definitely not the correct part here. So 4 will be removed, and the correct answer is A, that is 1, 2, and 3 only. So you can see a good understanding of this topic can help you solve a question which was there in UPSC prelims 2012 so easily. Page number 18 of today's Hindu mentions a very important article which says plant may soon create own fertilizer from thin air. Now here pay attention to the term fertilizer. It means plant will be in a position to fix free nitrogen from atmosphere and will be in a position to create their own chlorophyll. This will actually augment plant growth. So this is what the agenda of this article is. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, this will fall under GS General Studies paper 3, especially in the field of technology and environment. And if we see from the prelims perspective, this will again be part of general science and technology. Now, this topic has been very popular with UPSC, so pay attention to the details of this article. Let's begin. Now, as far as this article is concerned, the points: a team of Indian origin scientists is trying to engineer plants that can develop their own fertilizer by using atmospheric nitrogen. Now, this is very important. Why? Atmospheric nitrogen cannot be directly absorbed by the plants, and that is what the problem is. And we require fertilizer to support that process. Some leguminous plants like peas or groundnut also support the fixation of nitrogen from atmosphere to the soil. So this is something which is very important. Second is it would be done by gene manipulation. Now gene manipulation can also be called as genetic engineering. Now, as far as genetic engineering is concerned, there are actually 3 to 4 steps. First is the gene splicing. Now, gene splicing, what I mean is identification of the gene, the identification of the desired characteristic that we are looking for. The second aspect is use of recombinant DNA. Now, when we say use of recombinant DNA, we are trying to transfer the characteristic that we identified into the host. Next part is development of antibodies or PCR. So this is something which is important so that the host does not react against the introduction of new characteristic. So this is what the gene manipulation or genetic engineering is all about, and we will be following the same thing for plants as well. A subset of cyanobacteria can fix nitrogen from free air because it has circadian rhythm. Now, this is something which is very important. Please pay attention and note it down. Researchers have taken genes from cyanothes bacteria and put them into another type of cyanobacteria, that is Cyanococcitis. Now, these are the two bacteria which you should note as well. Now let us understand the process of nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation is a process by which nitrogen in Earth's atmosphere is converted into ammonia, that is NH3. Now this process is actually very difficult and is carried out by azotobacters or some rhizobium bacteria, which actually facilitate fixation of nitrogen from the atmosphere to the soil directly. Now, the problem is 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen, but the nitrogen is available in molecular dinitrogen form. That is, two atoms of nitrogen are closely bound and this bond is so strong that it is actually very difficult to separate molecular nitrogen, and they do not react because they are very stable in nature, and hence this process requires a lot of energy. We can also see some of the questions that have been asked in the 2013 prelims examination. If I pay attention to question number 91, many transplanted seedlings do not grow. Now we are looking for an answer. The new soil does not contain favorable minerals. So this is not correct. Most of the root hair grip the new soil too hard. This is again incorrect. Most of the root hairs are lost during transplantation. This can be the right answer. Leaves get damaged due to transplantation. So the correct answer for this is option C. And similarly, mycorrhizal biotechnology has been used in rehabilitating degraded sites because mycorrhiza enables plants to now resist drought and increase absorptive area, tolerate extremes of pH, and resist disease infestation. So all three are correct, and hence the correct answer is option D. So you can see that these topics have been very important from the UPSC perspectives, and UPSC has asked many questions which are based on simple understanding of what is happening around us, whether in the field of plant or bio. Now let us briefly understand the nitrogen cycle as observed in our atmosphere. We know that 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen only. But the nitrogen that is available in the atmosphere is very stable in nature, and it is very difficult to break it down. So the first step in fixing the nitrogen from free atmosphere to the soil is called as nitrogen fixation. So it will be nitrogen fixation. Now in this process, there are leguminous plants which take help of azotobacter and rhizobium, which fix free nitrogen from atmosphere to the soil. As you can see in the diagram as well, here are nitrogen fixing bacteria living in the legumes of the root nodules. So first step is nitrogen fixation. Now as far as second step is concerned, it is called as nitrogen assimilation. By nitrogen assimilation, we simply mean absorbing nitrogen and ammonia. Now, once the plants have prepared, the plants have used nitrogen, this is transferred to animals. Now, animals, when they consume this, so nitrogen assimilation takes place, and these animals absorb nitrogen. So, this is the second stage of nitrogen cycle. The third stage of nitrogen cycle is nitrogen ammonification. When plants or animals die, they are broken down by the saprophytes like fungi and bacteria, and which leads to mineralization. So this is the process of decomposition through aerobic or anaerobic reaction, and ultimately what happens, this releases ammonia back into the soil. Now the fourth step or fourth stage of this nitrogen cycle is denitrification. Denitrification process is done by denitrifying bacteria, as you can see here, where ammonia is converted into nitrites. And once nitrites are available, so nitrifying bacteria convert into nitrates, and this is converted directly by denitrifying bacteria into free nitrogen. So this is something through which the process of nitrogen cycle takes place. The last stage of the cycle is called as denitrification. So I hope through this small representation, the nitrogen cycle is clear to you. Page number 1 and 11 of today's newspaper present a very important piece of information for all of us, which talks about making lynching a separate offense. Supreme Court tells Parliament. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, this will be part of internal security, and the subtopic, if I want to see, it will be role of external state and non-state actors in creating challenges to internal security. So this is a very important topic from the perspective of the mains examination. Apart from this, this is also important in terms of prelims examination by addressing the issues of governance and separation of power. So let's begin our analysis. Now, the first and foremost thing is the three-judge bench led by CJI, that is Chief Justice of India, Mr. Deepak Misra. has condemned the recent incidents of mob lynching, and court described these incidents as creeping threats. They have resorted that mobocracy lead, cannot lead to a peaceful society. Now, the point of discussion here is what is the need to make it a separate offense? So, how the things will actually change. Now, first and foremost thing that you need to understand that our Indian Penal Code is basically addressing issues of individual violence, and the collective violence is not addressed. Now, this is clearly mentioned in point number 3 of this heading. Now, collective violence is not being handled properly, so people who resort to violence through a very through an agenda get away with very little or no punishment. That is what the idea is. So, current law address individual violence and not collective violence, and there are groups which are taking benefit from the situation and are misusing the same. Second important aspect is the individual or the group should not take law into their hands. Now, the importance of delivering justice is that this is the sole responsibility of the judiciary in India, and that is what the separation of power actually handles. Now, even someone is a vigilante, he or she should inform the right authorities so that justice can be delivered. The person should not take law into their hands, and if they take law into their hands, they do what? They sacrifice their accountability to law, which actually means which actually goes against the basic idea that no one is over or above the law. So this is something which the court wants to highlight, that when we make it a separate offense, these are the underlying things that we wish to see in the legislation. Let's move to the next part. There are two more things which are actually very important, and these are: first, law and order is basically responsibility of the state. This is part of the state list as well, and hence states are the first agent. States have to exercise their responsibility in terms of stopping the incidents of mob lynching. And second, we need to ensure tolerance in our society for a simple reason: our society is pluralistic in nature, and the majority cannot impose their ideas on minority. We have to be exercising tolerance and accept that there will be people with difference of opinion. Now, incidents of mob lynching in the recent past, we have seen that they have been done just to ensure that the views of the majority are implemented, which is not a very good thing for a country like India. Now, there are things that we need to address in terms of identifying how we can actually do prevention of these kind of things. Now, the recommendation for these issues is that a senior police officer, it is suggested that a superintendent of police should act as a nodal officer in each district, and he should take measures or steps just to ensure that they prevent mob violence. Now, this can be done by interacting with community leaders, those who represent community leaders, and this can also be done by taking into cognizance the importance of local intelligence units or LIUs. Once that is done, the half of the problem is actually solved. Now, third aspect is special task force to gather information. Now, it is very important to keep oneself updated about the kind of mood or the kind of information that is following. Considering the fact that the social media is, or you can also say fake news, has been used over and over again. So we need to keep a very close eye on the social media, and we need to take steps as well to curb and stop dissemination of irresponsible message or videos. Now, this is something a very important aspect that will help in preventing any kind of mob lynching. Now, second important aspect is, if in case mob lynching takes place, there should be a victim protection mechanism that should be there. And as far as the victim protection mechanism is concerned, there are few things that are actually very important. First, there should be a lynching or mob violence victim compensation scheme. Now, mob violence victim compensation scheme, which must also have a provision for interim relief. Now, the point is, anyone who has been suffering for mob lynching, he should get interim relief as well. It is not possible that the person will get relief after the judicial process is over. So interim relief should be paid to the victim or to the next of the kin of the deceased. Second important aspect is victim or the next of the kin of the deceased in case of mob violence or lynching should get free legal aid. So the victims or next to the next to the kin of the victim or deceased, so they should be given free legal aid. And last but not the least is no further harassment of family members. It has been seen that in our social groups this has been practiced as well, so government should take measures to improve situation for victim. Now as far as judicial is concerned, fast track court has been recommended, and when we talk about fast track court, which will hear the cases on daily basis, and the point is that they should be in a position to complete the hearing in 6 months, and that is how they will ensure fast and speedy action. Last but not the least, maximum sentence should be given to people who are involved in this crime. Now, the point is when we initially talk about individual violence and collective violence. Now, when normally people follow collective violence, they get away because now in our society the Indian penal code actually focuses more on individual violence and the collective violence has not been taken care of. That is why people normally get away with no or minimum sentence. Now when we talk about this mob lynching, the recommendation is to give maximum sentence in whatever crime the person has committed, whether the person has promoted a message or has identified people or incited victims of mob lynching, they should or has committed the actual crime of lynching. So the crime, whatever crime the person has committed, they should be given maximum sentence of that crime. This will instill a feeling of fear amongst those who are practicing mob lynching. This will instill a fear of law in those people who are doing mob lynching or promoting mob lynching, and they will start appreciating the law. Now, in 2016, the UPSC mains examination, a question has been asked: use of internet and social media by non-state actors for subversive activities is a major security concern. How have these been misused in the recent past? Suggest effective guidelines to curb the above threat. So you can see that the topic that we have just discussed actually is dealt in the UPSC examination as well. I would suggest you to write an answer for this question. Now you are very well informed about what kind of a threat we are talking about and how to take a preventive or remedial course of action. That will give you a lot of insight about how one can prepare for the UPSC examination. Page 6 of today's Hindu mentions a very important article about Center stands by Bru Pact. Now, this article is very important from the perspective of the coming mains examination, especially for GS Studies 3 and that too in the security aspect. Apart from that, this is also important for the prelims examination because tribes from Northeast region have always been something which UPSC has asked over and over again. We will see a question in the later part of the slides. Let's dive into the article. Now, first and foremost, let us go through the article. The Union government is committed to implementing the agreement to repatriate nearly 33,000 Bru refugees from Tripura to Mizoram. Now, Bru refugees were represented by Mr. Savibunga. Now, Savibunga still represents them, but he is forced by the refugees to withdraw from the agreement. Now, the reason for forcing him to withdraw is that Bru people want to negotiate a better deal with the government of India. Now, in terms of better deal, there are some aspect of this agreement which are as follows. Each Bru refugee family, which is 5,407, so there are roughly 33,000 people who are part of 5,407 families. They will get a food ration of rupees 5,000 per month for next 2 years. Second important is house building assistance of rupees 1.5 lakh, and third is one-time financial assistance of 4 lakh rupees. So this is something which government of India has already committed, which was earlier accepted by Bru tribal people, but now they feel that they should negotiate more with government of India and try to get more benefits. Now, one of the primary benefit that they are looking for is uh, is is one of the primary things that they are looking to negotiate with government of India is that when they go back to Mizoram, they want a place for themselves in terms of they are the majority in that area. Right now, the situation is like this: when these people will go back to Mizoram and they will start settling in those areas where they are earlier settled, they will again be a minority and hence can be forced out again, and they want that they should be given an area or territory where they won't be minorities anymore. Now, in terms of Bru people, we need to know something more about them. The Brus are also referred to Riangs. Now, this is the other name, and they're spread across the northeastern states of Tripura, Assam, Manipur, and Mizoram. The first sign of conflict between Brus and the Mizos, the majority tribe of the state, Mizos as the majority tribe of the Mizoram, emerged in 1995, and in 1997 mass exodus of these people took place where they settled in Tripura, adjoining state of Tripura. An attempt at repatriation began in 2010, which is still continuing. Now, the recent negotiation with Government of India, we are expecting that this problem will be solved. Now, as far as the questions are concerned, in 2012, there has been a question on this tribe. Now, you pay attention to this Limbu, that is Sikkim, Karbi, Himachal Pradesh, Dongaria Kund, that is Odisha, and Bonda and Tamil Nadu. Now, we have to identify which are correctly matched. Now, in terms of the correct answer, we know that the Karbi are found in Assam. So the second statement is incorrect. And similarly, if I talk about Bonda tribes are found in Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and Andhra Pradesh. So 4 is also incorrect. So 1 and 3 are correct, and hence the correct answer is option A. So you can see how much important these tribes are in terms of UPSC prelims examination. Page number 8 of today's newspaper presents a wonderful article or editorial about inflation worries, and it focuses about wholesale price index data for June warrants a closer macroeconomic scrutiny. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, this will be part of General Studies paper 3, and it is also very important from prelims perspective, as we will going to see in the next few slides. Now, in terms of economic development, you can say government budgeting and economy and issues related to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development. This will fall under this category. Let's begin the basic points about this article. Now, the first and foremost thing which the article talks about is sharp surge in wholesale inflation, which is 54-month high at 5.77%. Now, this is something which is very important in terms of what author wants to say. First, WPI is no longer the primary focus of RBI. Now, earlier, RBI, in order to make changes in the monetary policy, used to focus primarily on WPI, that is wholesale price index. But after the change, the RBI focuses more on consumer price index, and this is actually leaves a lot of things to be worried about. Now, there's a very important thing. We need to understand what is WPI and what is consumer price index and how it actually influences. Now, WPI, the price inflation, is basically equated at manufacturer's level. So, manufacturer level is the important aspect. But as far as consumer price index is concerned, the price inflation is calculated at retailer's point. But remember one thing, the supply of goods from manufacturer to retailer is actually interlinked. So as the WPI or as the WPI increases, as the inflation at manufacturer level increases, it will have a cascading effect towards the consumer price index as well. Now, this is the important point which the author wants to highlight. Now, in terms of WPI or wholesale price index, there are few things that we need to pay attention to. First, prices of oil has gone up in the recent months, and from February onwards, there has been a consistent growth in the prices. Apart from this, food has also influenced the inflation because it is a very volatile commodity. Second important aspect is increase in the electricity prices. Now, these two factors, 3 and 4, are very important because they influence the cost at the manufacturer level. Now, this is something which is going to influence the price. Now, how it is going to be influencing the price? Just pay attention. Fifth is the prices of basic metals used for manufacturer has gone up. So 3, 4, and 5, these three things have gone up. And what will happen? This will actually increase the price of manufactured products, which are part of WPI with largest weight of 64.2%. Now you have increased the prices of oil, the price of increase and electricity has gone up, and the prices of basic metals has also gone up. So this will have a cascading effect on the consumer price index as well. Now this is something which has actually which actually should inspire the government to take preventive measures so that the effect on the retailers and ultimately on the consumers is very limited in nature. Apart from this, there is one more problem or challenge, the unfavorable base effect. Now, the WPI index, the if I talk about WPI inflation in June 2017 was just 0.9%. So this is something which is influencing the wholesale price index in the larger picture. So now I think you are clear with the issue that the author wants to highlight. First, prices has gone up in terms of oil, prices of electricity has also gone up, and prices of basic metals have also gone up. These three things together will increase the prices of the inflation for wholesale price index, which has the largest weight of 64.2%. And apart from this, unfavorable base effect also influences the inflation in a big fashion. Now, the author is of the opinion that government should take immediate action to take remedial measures for inflation. Now, before moving further, let's just try to understand what are the difference between WPI and consumer price index. Now, in terms of basis of comparison, you already know that wholesale price index and consumer price index is the full form. Wholesale price index amount to the average change in the price at the wholesale level, or you can also say at manufacturer's level. So this is what the difference would be. And consumer price indicates average change in the price of commodity at the retail level. Means when you go and buy the things from the market, that is the price it will indicate. Now, in terms of publication, Office of Economic Advisor, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, these basically publish wholesale price index. And consumer price index is a combined, is released by Central Statistical Organization in the Ministry of Statistics and the program implementation. Now, in terms of measured the prices of only the goods, the wholesale price index measured because it is basically concerned with the manufacturing sector. 64.2% is the weight. Now, goods and services such as transportation, housing, education, recreation are also covered under consumer price index. Now, in terms of measurement, it is the first stage of transaction because it deals with manufacturers. Now, this must be amply clear now, and this is at the final stage of transaction. Items covered, there are 697 articles covered, covering primary articles, fuel, power, and manufactured products. Now pay attention, this comprises around 64.2% of the weight as well in terms of manufacturing. Now in terms of consumer price index, there are two baskets. Rural baskets cover 448 items and urban basket covers 460 items. Now weight given to the food articles is 24.4% in wholesale price index. In consumer price index, it is 39.1%. And in terms of base year, the base year is the financial year of 2011 to 12 for wholesale price index, and for consumer price index, it is now 2012. So this is what the difference between wholesale price and consumer price index. Now let us see some of the questions which we have seen in the UPSC examination. Now in 2015 prelims examination, we have seen two questions on these inflation. Then this topic has been very popular. With reference to inflation in India, which of the following statements is correct? First, controlling the inflation in India is the responsibility of the government of India only. Now, this is something that basically defies the logic. Second is the Reserve Bank of India has no role in controlling influence. Now, we know that monetary policy is basically governed by RBI, so they have a role to play. Decreased money circulation helps in controlling inflation. This is one of the measures which is used by the government to control the inflation. And the increased money circulation helps in controlling inflation. This is actually reverse. So the correct answer for this question is option C. Next is which of the following brings out the consumer price index number for industrial workers? Now, correct answer for this is the Labor Bureau. So you can see how important this topic has been for the UPSC examination. And I feel that after going through this article completely, you will be in a position to solve the questions related to that in an easy manner. With this, we have come to the end for today's analysis. Let's move towards the question of the day.